The Wife of Bath's Tale, The Wife of Bath's Prologue. If there were no authority on earth except experience, mine for what it's worth, and that's enough for me, all goes to show that marriage is a misery and a woe. For let me say, if I may make so bold, my lords, since when I was but 12 years old, thanks be to God eternal evermore, 5 husbands have I had at the church door. Yes, it's a fact that I have had so many, all worthy in their way, as good as any. Someone said recently, for my persuasion, that as Christ only went on one occasion to grace a wedding, in Cana of Galilee, he taught me by example there to see that it is wrong to marry more than once. Consider too how sharply for the nonce he spoke, rebuking the Samaritan, beside the well Jesus Christ, God and man. Thou hast had 5 men husbands unto thee, and he that even now thou hast, said he, is not thy husband, such the words that fell. But what he meant thereby I cannot tell. Why was her 5th? Explain it if you can. No lawful spouse to the Samaritan. How many might have had her, then, to wife? I have never heard an answer all my life. To give the number final definition, people may guess or frame a supposition, but I can say for certain it's no lie. God bade us all to wax and multiply. That kindly text I well can understand. Is not my husband under God's command to leave his father and mother and take me? No word of what the number was to be. Why not marry 2 or even 8? And why speak evil of the married state? Take wise King Solomon of long ago. We hear he had 1,000 wives or so, and would to God it were allowed to me to be refreshed, aye, half so much as he. He must have had a gift of God for wives. No one to match him in a world of lives. This noble king, one may as well admit, on the first night threw many a merry fit with each of them. He was so much alive, blessed be God, that I have wedded 5, welcome the 6th whenever he appears. I can't keep content for years and years, no sooner than one husband's dead and gone, some other Christian man should take me on. For then, so says the apostle, I am free to wed, O God's name, where it pleases me. Wedding's no sin, so far as I can learn. Better it is to marry than to burn. What do I care if people choose to see scandal in Lamech for his bigamy? I know that Abraham was a holy man, and Jacob too, for all that I can scan. Yet each of them we know had several brides, like many another holy man besides. Show me a time or text where God disparages, or sets a prohibition upon marriages. Expressly, let me have it, show it to me. And where did he command virginity? I know as well as you do, never doubt it, all the Apostle Paul has said about it. He said that as for precepts he had none. One may advise a woman to be won. Advise is no commandment in my view. He left it in our judgment what to do. Had God commanded maidenhood to all, marriage would be condemned beyond recall, and certainly, if seed were never sown, however could virginity be grown? Did Paul not dare pronounce, let matters rest, his master having given him no behest? There's a prize offered for virginity. Catch as catch can. Who's in for it? Let's see. It is not everyone who hears the call. On whom God wills, he lets his power fall. The apostle was a virgin, well I know. Nevertheless, though his writings show he wished that everyone were such as he, it's all mere counsel to virginity. And as for being married, he lets me do it, out of indulgence, so there's nothing to it. In marrying me, suppose my husband dead, there's nothing bigamous in such a bed. Though it were a good man should never touch a woman, meaning here in bed and such, and dangerous to assemble fire and tow. What this allusion means you all must know. He only says virginity is fresh, more perfect than the frailty of the flesh. in married life, except when he and she prefer to live in married chastity. I grant it you, I'll never say a word decrying maidenhood, although preferred to frequent marriage. There are those who mean to live in their virginity as clean in body as in soul, and never mate. I'll make no boast about my own estate, as in a noble household we are told, not every dish and vessels made of gold. Some are of wood, yet earn their master's praise. God calls his folk to him in many ways. To each of them God gave his proper gift, some this, some that, and left them to make shift. Virginity is indeed a great perfection, and married continuance for God's dilection. But Christ, who of perfection is the well, bade not that every one should go and sell all that he had and give it to the poor, to follow in his footsteps, that is sure. He spoke to those that would live perfectly. And, by your leave, my lords, that's not for me, I will bestow the flower of life, the honey, upon the acts of fruit and matrimony. Tell me, to what conclusion, or in aid, of what regenerative organs made, and for what profit were those creatures wrought? Trust me, they cannot have been made for naught. Gloze as you will, and plead the explanation that they were only made for the purgation of urine, little things of no avail, except to know a female from a male. And nothing else. Did somebody say no? Experience knows well it isn't so. The learned may rebuke me, or be loath to think it so, but they were made for both. That is to say, both use and pleasure in engendering, except in case of sin. Why else the proverb written down and set in books, a man must yield his wife her debt? What means of paying her can he invest unless he use? What means of paying her can he invent unless he use his silly instrument? It follows they were fashioned at creation, both to purge urine and for propagation. But I'm not saying everyone is bound, who has such harness as you heard me expound, to go and use it breeding. That would be to show too little care for chastity. Christ was a virgin, fashioned as a man, and many of his saints, since time began, were ever perfect in their chastity. I'll have no quarrel with virginity. Let them be pure wheat loaves of maidenhood. And let us wives be known for barley bread. Yet Mark can tell that barley bread sufficed to freshen many at the hand of Christ. In that estate to which God summoned me, I'll persevere. I'm not persnickety. In wifehood I will use my instrument as freely as my Maker me it sent. If I turn difficult, God give me sorrow. My husband, he shall have it even morrow. Whenever he likes to come and pay his debt, I won't prevent him. I'll have a husband yet, who shall be both my debtor and my slave, and bear his tribulations to the grave, upon his flesh as long as I'm his wife, for mine shall be the power all his life over his proper body, and not he. Thus the Apostle Paul has told it me, and bade our husbands they should love us well. There's a command on which I like to dwell. The pardoner started up, and thereupon, Madam, he said, by God and by St. John, that's noble preaching, no one could surpass. I was about to take a wife, alas! Am I to buy it on my flesh so dear? There'll be no marrying for me this year. You wait, she said. My story's not begun. You'll taste another brew before I've done. You'll find it isn't quite so nice as beer. For while the tale is telling, you shall hear of all the tribulations man and wife can have. I've been an expert all my life, that is to say, myself have been the whip. So please yourself. Whether you want to sip at that same cask of marriage I shall broach, be cautious before making the approach, for I'll give instances, and more than 10, and those who won't be warned by other men shall suffer their correction. So Ptolemy has said in this connection. You read his Almagest. You'll find it there. Madam, I put it to you as a prayer, the pardoner said. Go on, as you began. Tell us your tale. Spare not for any man. Instruct us younger men in your technique. Gladly, she answered, if I am to speak, but still I hope the company won't reprove me, though I should speak as fantasy may move me, and please don't be offended at my views. They're really only offered to amuse. Now, gentlemen, I'll tell on, and tell my tale, and as I hope to drink good wine and ale, I'll tell the truth. Those husbands that I had, 3 of them were good and 2 were bad. The 3 I call good were rich and old. They could indeed with difficulty hold the articles that bound them all to me. No doubt you understand my simile. So, help me God, I have to laugh outright, remembering how I made them work at night. And faith, I set no store by it, no pleasure. It was to me. They'd given me their treasure. I had no need to do my diligence to win their love or show them reverence. They showed me well enough, so, heavens above, why should I make a dainty of their love? A knowing woman's work is never done to get a lover if she hasn't one. But as I had them eating from my hand, and as they'd yielded me their golden land, why then take trouble to provide them pleasure, unless to profit and amuse my leisure? I set them so to work, I'm bound to say. Many a night they sang, Alack the day! Never for them the flitch of bacon, though, that some have won in Essex at Dunmow. I governed them so well, and held the reins so firmly, they were rapturously fain to go and buy me pretty things to wear. They were delighted if I spoke them fair. God knows how spitefully I used to scold them. Listen, I'll tell you how I used to hold them, you knowing women who can understand. First, put them in the wrong, and out of hand. No one can be so bold, I mean no man, at lies and swearing as a woman can. This is no news, as you'll have realized, to knowing ones. But to the misadvised, a knowing wife, if she is worth her salt, can always prove her husband is at fault. And even though the fellow may have heard some story told him by a little bird, she knows enough to prove the bird is crazy, and get her maid to witness she's a daisy. But full agreement, scarce solicited. With full agreement, scarce solicited. But listen, here's the sort of thing I said. Now, old Sir Doddard, what is that you say? Why is my neighbor's wife so smart and gay? She is respected everywhere she goes. I sit at home and have no decent clothes. Why haunt her house? What are you doing there? Are you so amorous? Is she so fair? What whispering secrets to our maid? For shame, Sir Ancient Lecher, time you drop that game. And if I see my gossip to a friend, you scold me like a devil. There is no end. If I as much as stroll toward his house, then you come as drunken as a mouse. You mount your throne and preach chapter and verse, all nonsense, and you tell me it's a curse to marry a poor woman. She's expensive. Or if her family's wealthy and extensive, you say it's torture to endure her pride, and melancholy airs, and more beside. And if she has a pretty face, old traitor, you say she's game for any fornicator, and ask what likelihood will keep her straight with all those men who lie about in wait.